My name is Katelyn Coiro, and I have designed a mechanic for the tile-based game project Tournamental. The mechanic I have made for this game project is the pressure plate mechanic inspired by Undertale's pressure plate puzzle in the Ruins. While that game had a more comedic take on the mechanic, I took the main functionality and applied it to this project. If we take a look here, there's a purple cube that's blocking us from accessing the tile win space in the top right corner. However, if we come over here, there's two colored tiles, one being the message tile and the other being the blue pressure plate tile. Let's go on the message tile and see what it says. Place a block on me for a hint. Okay? I imagine this to be an introduction level to the pressure plate mechanic, hence why I designed the level like this. You need something on the blue space for the gate. When the player tries to get the player character on the pressure plate, a sound effect is played and an animation for the gate is played, revealing that we can now access that space and access the tile when completing a level. However, if we go off the pressure plate, the animation reverses, preventing us from accessing the tile with space once again. Let's try putting this block on the pressure plate and see what happens. Because the block can't physically move without the player interacting with it, the pressure plate, the gate, stays open, allowing us to go through and complete the level. The main reason why I wanted to do this mechanic because for the blocks, so without it, there's not really much you could do with them besides moving them around and to, to essentially make them get out of their way and actually to get to complete the level. And that's not really fun. However, with the use of the pressure plate, it gives them more of a use in the game, and therefore makes them more interesting. Now that we've gone over what the mechanic is, let's go over its functionality. Starting with the tile gate. Before I go into the actual code, I want to take a moment to go to the viewport real quick to go over how I made the gate to be the way it is. There's a plane underneath the large cube here, and this is mainly because if I hadn't put a plane there, then there would just be a void, which would make it more confusing when the player gets on the space and suddenly they're floating in the air. Hence why I put the plane there. But back to the actual code. Firstly, I made custom events called switch on and switch off. These are self-explanatory, but basically they trigger this timeline animation for the gate going up and going down. The timeline animation sets the cube's Z relative location to go up and down, again, depending on if something is on or off of the pressure plate. After the relative location is set, I've used a flip-flop node to change the cube's can enter variable. True if there is something on the pressure plate, and false if there is nothing on the pressure plate. This is important because without this, the player would just not get on the space and be very confused. It would essentially just forever be like the wall tile. So, and that would make things very confusing when there's nothing on the tile and yet you can't go there. Going to the actual pressure plate, I first used the event on entered and event on exit nodes. Because there's no collision used in Tournamental, these essentially act as pseudo collision nodes. It basically triggers something like when the player. Originally, it's essentially like sets the player's location depending on what direction they go on. However, in this case, by calling on the parent functions for both of these nodes, we can use it to as a function for the pressure plate's functionality. Firstly, a sound effect is played from a pressure plate sound, which is essentially a sound cue, where a simple sound effect is played, which I have taken off of Westar. After the sound effect is played, a object reference to the gate that I talked about earlier, her calls on its switch on and switch off the functions, depending on if something enters or exits the pressure plate. Hence why I included the vent on entered and vent on exit notes for the pressure plate. Without this node, the code just wouldn't work. And as I said, because there's no collision here, these are essentially how I was able to get the collision, quote unquote, to work for the pressure plate. Thank you for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed the mechanic I had to I demonstrated for this. Thank you for watching.